Chapter 4. Glasgow. Okay, well, I hope he found what he was looking for, at least. Only once the train is in a good distance out of London do I finally begin to relax. Just why I feared Eva had been watching the comings and goings at the station. I saw her as I was going to the platform, but I was inconspicuous enough to pass next to her without being recognized. Alan, with his imposing build, probably helped to shield me from her view. I was certain that I managed to get on the train without her seeing me, but I'm sure she wasn't alone. One of her collaborators spotted me, and she knows my destination. To be on the safe side, I think that it's best to assume that it's only a matter of time before she follows me to Glasgow. Try to organize my thoughts. My present situation is pretty awkward. The trail that Ulysses has left isn't easy to follow. It seems to be petering out as I press on. Then again, if he has been pursued by Eva's organization too, I can understand he would have tried to keep as low a profile as possible. I hope that this Arthur Pullman will finally be able to tell me more about the record if I do actually manage to find him. For the time being, all I'm being able to scrape together are rumors and various contradictory stories. Feels like I have more and more questions and no answers. Realize I've let Alan embark on this adventure without him knowing all the ins and outs. Why not use the travel time to tell him about my quest? Despite everything, I decide to omit, for the time being, the supernatural elements of my story. So, on the contrary, as the countryside rushes past the windows, throw ourselves into a lively discussion. 5 hours in the train seem to flash by in moments. After visiting two capitals, finding myself in a more modestly sized city like Glasgow, it's like a breath of fresh air. The station is right in the city centre, which we cross on foot, heading for the establishment where his friend Yorgos works. We enter the ground floor of an old building, a small room with mismatched furniture and a fire burning in a great stone fireplace. At the end of the room, a long counter stretches across its width. A Mediterranean-looking man seems to be absorbed in carefully preparing a basket of fresh vegetables. Probably the famous Yorgos. We approach. Yorgos looks up and, seeing Alan, a broad smile lights up on his face. Two men hug over the counter. Yorgos speaks in broken English, with a curious blend of Greek and Scottish accents. It meant I had some difficulty understanding him. Quickly sensing my dismay, Alan presents me in French. This is Alice, a friend. Yorgos sits smoothly into a garbled French, with just as strong a Greek accent. Another of your French pals? Wipes his hand roughly on his apron, but holds out his wrist over the counter, and shake it as best I can. Yorgos. Nice to meet you. I'm Alice. So tell me, how does this nana convince you to come so far north? Points his knife at Alan. Unless it's you who managed to get the old rogue out of his record store. Promises to visit me for years. Begin to give up hope. Actually, Alice is looking for a mutual friend who recently came to Glasgow. Your pal Ulysses, right? I nod. That's right. Yes, he was in Glasgow. What, about 2 weeks ago? Do you know what he was doing here? Like I said, he passed through. He asked me where I could crash on the cheap. Did he happen to mention Arthur Pullman? A steady clack of the knife on the chopping board stops for a moment as Yorgos tries to recall the details. Yes, a radio presenter, right? That's right. Did he say where you thought he'd find him? No, sorry. Maybe we could go and try and find something out on the local radio station. If I had to get information about a radio presenter, that's definitely where I'd start. We mostly listen to the big national radio stations here, but you could try Sub City. It's the university radio. They don't broadcast all the time, but they do a great mix to evenings. Play it here often in the restaurant. The commercials just remind you of the name of the station from time to time. Here, try this. Without warning, Yargos places 2 plates on the counter. Contain a beautifully said mix of vegetables. Not smart of me. Go ahead. You'll see. This guy's a genius. Take a mouthful and discover that he's right. It's delicious. So, do you like it? I think I finally managed to balance the bitterness of the horseradish. It's really delicious. I was a waiter in the restaurant where Yargos worked for 6 months in Paris. Tried to meet up in the backyard for a smoke between services. Good days. Worked in London for time after. Then I had the opportunity to have the archery here in Glasgow with an associate. It was a long time. Wanted to pass in full vegetarian. Anyway, it's always a pleasure to try out your creations, Yargos. Alan turns to me. We shouldn't hang about if we want to drop in at the radio station. Give myself a few months to think it over. On one hand, something tells me that this lead will probably take us to a dead end. I can't imagine a former BBC presenter broadcasting on a student radio station. On the other hand, I don't really have any ideas of what else to do, except to cling to hope that someone there will know where to find this Arthur Pullman. Unless I don't find the answer in the present, maybe revisiting the past. Secretly slip my hand into my bag to reassure myself that the record is still there. Trouble is, I still don't know how to use it. Don't want to find myself stuck in a reality where I've lost someone dear to me, like Enzo. Then there's Alan. Should I warn him about what might happen if I listen to the record, or should I keep it to myself? Again, we're already in an alternative reality. My normal life, the future that I believed was all mapped out, all of it has been erased. Do I truly want to go back to that life? Alan's noticed my hesitation and is waiting for my answer. Do I want to risk doing it, or... Yeah, I had a feeling it was going to come to this at some point. Okay, I'm thinking we go to the campus radio first, because we can always come back to the vinyl record afterwards, because I don't want to risk changing the world again if the campus radio could have given us the information anyway, so let's go to the radio first. Okay, there's no harm in trying the campus radio. Someone tells me you're not convinced about this lead. I don't know Alan. Former BBC presenter on a student radio station seems extremely unlikely to me. But after all, you never know, eh? Perhaps someone there will know where to find this Arthur Pullman. And you never know, maybe Euless dropped in to see them for some reason we don't know yet. Quite. Well then, let's get to the campus. Say goodbye to Yargos and set off to the University of Glasgow. Quickest route is through Clement Grove Park, which we cross beneath the Scottish drizzle. After half an hour walking, we finally reached the University of Glasgow, a long Gothic-style building. After asking for the way to the reception and having wandered a little on the campus, we finally find the prefabricated building which holds Sub City Radio. Climb up 2 floors and find ourselves at the antechamber, separating the corridor from the studio. Illuminated on-air sign is switched off, so Alan knocks on the door and then goes into the room. Studio is empty, except for a student who can't be more than 20 years old. Wearing a threadbare Pink Floyd Diversion Belt AirPod t-shirt. A pair of bulky headphones hung around his neck. Seated at the large table, which must be used for broadcast, looks up from taking his notes and greets us. Oh, hello. I'm DJ Saturn. I'm preparing my mix here. Can you come back later? You're going to break my flow. Alan burst out laughing. DJ Saturn, really? That how you young blokes oppress the birds these days? In my day, we learned the guitar. Do we really want to intervene, or... I mean, he's just kind of poking fun at him. I mean, don't jest, right? Yeah, I say let him continue. I guess you're, second year astronomy, right? DJ Saturn looks a little annoyed. He mutters into his beard. Astrophysics is not astronomy. Alan grabs a chair, turns it around and sits down next to him. Places a friendly but imposing hand on Saturn's shoulder. Alan, my friend here is Alice. Take the opportunity to take a chair too and sit on his other side. So, lad, what's your name? William. Sorry to break your flow, William, but we just have one or two questions to ask you. Won't take long, promise. And turns to me with a mischievous smile. Yeah, let's ask about Arthur Pullman. Looking for a former BBC radio presenter, Arthur Pullman. Ring any bells? Shun looks at us incredulous. Do I know Arthur Pullman? Of course I know him. The guy's a legend. Had a late night show on the BBC in the early 90s. Has some killer lineups. Thanks to him, loads of forgotten 60 bands got rediscovered. Can still get bootleg cassette tapes of his show. Then there were the live recordings. No one ever knew where he got them from, but he had an amazing collection of really excellent quality pirate recordings. Played them in his mixes sometimes, especially the proto-metal Led Zepp, Euroheat, Black Sabbath. But why are you asking? I'm looking for a friend. Apparently he came through Glasgow and he was trying to meet this Arthur Pullman. Do you by any chance come here to the radio station? I don't think so. I'm in the studio a lot when I'm not in lectures. It's better than my 9x9 foot digs. If he'd come to see us, I think I know about it. What's his name, your pal? Ulyss, Frenchman. Long hair, dark glasses? No, sorry. If I'd seen him, I'd remember. I'm out of options. This is the end of the trail. Got no idea where to find this Arthur Pullman. Got no idea where Ulyss might have gone next. Seeing my dismay, Alan takes the lead. Thanks for talking to us. Let you get back to your flow. Leave the radio station and start walking back to the city centre. Walk a few minutes before Alan breaks the silence. I'm sorry, Alice. I think it's too late to get the train back. Let's get a hotel for the night and we'll see tomorrow. Okay. Hesitate for a moment, considering the thought of postponing the end. Considering the thought of spending one more night with Alan. But what's the point? But wait, I run the risk of Eva and her henchmen finding me, taking a record. Now that all the leads have dried up, my only option is to search in the past. I hope that I can find out where this Arthur Pullman is. And to try, if I can, not to come back to a reality that's too different. The only unresolved question is Alan. Turn to him and add, do you know where we can find a record player? Pastor shot that sold little portable record players early on the way to Yorgo's place. If we don't hang it about, it should still be open. But why? Do we tell him or not? Well, you might as well. Take a deep breath and tell him everything, all in one go, without stopping and without hiding anything this time. The issues parcel, the record, listening, upheaval that made to my reality, and my decision to figure this all out. Paris, then London, Enzo's story, Eva and her organization, all of it punctuated with my doubts and questions. I listened carefully without interrupting. Finish with, there you go, now you know it all. I know it all seems a bit crazy, but I promise you it's the truth. And takes me by my shoulders and holds me in his arms for a moment. I understand why you didn't tell me everything straight away, Alice. After all, we've only known each other for 2 days. I won't lie to you. Story of Magic Record, well, it's a bit of... It'll take a bit of time to get my head around it. Can't imagine how much stress you've been under for these last few days. You need to listen to the record, we'll find a way for you to listen. And no matter what happens, whether there's magic or not, I'll be there to go with you. Aw, you're sweet. Yeah, thanks for your support. Thank you for being so understanding. I only trust that you believe me and support me. We'll talk about it when you get back from the past with Arthur Pullman's dress. Till then, I'm ready to put my skepticism aside. Oh, I just hope you'll still be here, waiting for me to come back. Alan Loss. Where do you think I'd go? Come on, let's buy that record player before the shop shuts. Now we book into a little hotel next to the station. Go into the room and I open a little leather case which contains the record player. Plug it in and put the record in place. Turn to Ellen. Come on, Alice, don't look like that. Staying right here, right next to you. Everything will be fine, you'll see. Yeah, I don't know how this will work with transporting 2 people instead of 1, but don't try to disabuse him. He doesn't believe in the power of the record, and that's probably for the best. Put my hand on the back of his neck and kiss him. If we don't meet up on the other side, I want you to know I had a wonderful time with you. Sit down next to each other at the end of the bed. Put the headphones over my ears and switch the player to 45 revolutions per minute. Before putting you in the groove, take Alan's hand. I close my eyes and let the music take me over. Percussion intro. Try to focus on Ulysses. How he looks, his voice, his laugh, his smell. Walls of the hotel room begin to resonate, distort and stretch. Air blazes with iridescent particles, shimmering. Then the world implodes, and I'm somewhere else. Time collapses. Fragments of the past. Didn't realize it was lyrics this time, not to be used. Just spoken out loud.
Memories as grains of sound in the everlasting now. The time we met, you saw me first. We talked, we listened, your life and mine. How did I forget about all that? It splits, time folds.
Come closer.
The record store, the 3 of us. Mark smiles, simple happiness of starting anew. again. I focus on the autumn heart, the nucleus of what we were, of what we are. Burning light through the window, evening sun, Sunday afternoon. You there on the couch, me at the piano. I look at you, I smile. When you smile back, the flow of time stabilizes into this then, and this then is now.
Euless closes his book and looks at me, concerned. Are you okay? You stopped playing all of a sudden. Got the feeling you were somewhere else. Okay, well, we finally get to meet you in person. Yeah, I'm fine, I guess. Yes, I'm fine. I hold myself together. I know that my time here this moment is precious. I don't want to allow myself to overcome by emotion. Are you sure? You think you've seen a ghost? Euless stands up. I'm going to get a glass of water. I'll be right back. Don't move, I'll get it for you. While Euless goes to the kitchen, I have time to look into the mirror above the mantelpiece. I still have long hair. Cut it a month or two before we split up. Which tells me we're probably sometime in the summer before our breakup. You were still happy back then. And in September, the start of the new school year, you began to be more distant. Was he already thinking of leaving back then? Euless gives me the glass of water. I drink. Sits down at the coffee table facing me, puts his hand on my thigh. Better? I nod. Thanks. Put the glass down on the piano. Time is short. I have to get to the point. This will probably sound strange, but do you know where I can find Arthur Pullman? Arthur Pullman? Radio presenter who played old records in the 90s? Yeah. Funny, there was actually a short article about it in Rocks last week. Snatches up the magazine on the coffee table, waddles quickly through it and holds it out to me at the right page. And he says Jimmy Page's Loch Ness house is sold. Apparently he wrote a Bullskin house. Bullskin? It's a house in Scotland that Page, the Led Zeppelin guitarist, brought in the 70s. Appears in some parts of the film concert. The song remains the same. Got to say, I'm not totally surprised Pullman's always been a Led Zeppelin fan. Played a lot of their live footage on his shows. Put the magazine down next to me on the piano stool. Hope I remember all the information when I get back to the present. I didn't know you knew so much about this stuff. It's because of Mark. Big fan of the guy. Got cassette copies of almost all the shows. If you ask me, some of his mixed choices aren't fantastic. Frankly, playing ultimate spinach straight after the Garden of Earthly Delights from the United States of America is almost tasteless. As for his almost fanatical infatuation with the Tesla girl. Anyway, all serious musicologists agree that Desert Shore is undeniably Nico's best album. Euless. Why not mention the Marble Index while we're at it? Insisting on being original no matter what. And someone like Joe Boyd at the helm, that makes all the difference, doesn't it? He's the one we can take for 5 leads left, for God's sake. Nick Drake's best record. Some people say that Pink Moon is better, but Euless is off. I know from experience that I can go on like this for hours. I'm afraid I don't have hours. Go his arm and look him in the eye. Ulysses stops in the middle of his sentence. The something lights up on his face. It's the record, isn't it? No use denying it, yes. Yeah. Talking about the same thing, yes. I listened to the record. And you come from the future, we need to find Arthur Pullman, right? Look away. Scared of telling him too much, but it may have an unpredictable impact on my reality. Will seems surprisingly relieved. Takes me in his arms and we hold each other for a while. He emerges from our embrace and as cheerfully. That means it didn't work. What didn't work? Walls of the apartment around us begin to dislocate. Ah, fuck. Don't need to explain to him. I can see in his face that he understands what's happening. Alice, please, try to remember that we don't need to break up anymore. I don't have to leave you. That it didn't work. We don't need to? What do you mean, Ulysses? It's too late. Once again, I'm carried away by the flow of time to the rhythm of the song. It's so close yet so far.
Collapses, fragments of the past, moments split, years in between, chaotic mess, memories, grains of sound. In the everlasting night, everything changes. I shed the remnants of my whole skin until the fall of time stabilizes into this new present.
Seated in a leather armchair, Jazz record plays softly with the characteristic crackling of a vinyl. Don't immediately notice the older man who is watching me, surprised from an armchair which matches the one I sit in. What I do, however, notice is that I'm suddenly not in the room, the little hotel near the station in Glasgow. I look down. Wearing a denim print sheath dress which comes down to my knees. My feet, crimson pumps. My nails are long and perfectly painted with a shiny polish that matches my shoes. After feeling my hair long against my neck, I grab a strand and pull it in front of my eyes, discovering that it's now short and curled, held in place by a large quantity of liqueur. Man facing me clears his throat to get my attention. Meet the strangeness of the situation. Excuse me, Mr. Pullman, Arthur Pullman. Nice to meet you. Okay, so we actually remembered the information. We're here now, I'm assuming. He's with a calm, almost melodious voice, with the profoundly British, slightly drawling tone that one usually associates with the aristocracy. Alice, I've been looking for you for some time, Mr. Pullman. Please, call me Arthur, or Art, if you prefer. He leans forward and holds out his hand. I shake it. Arthur, this may sound odd, but I don't exactly know how I got here. Well, I don't know more than you about where exactly you came from, but I can tell you that you just materialized in my office. I suppose that you've just listened to the record, have you? Believe it or not, after all these years, that's the first time I personally witnessed a real alignment. And I do thank you for the experience. Someone knocks on the door. Come in. Elegant-looking middle-aged man pushes open the door and places a tray, A steaming teapot and 2 mugs on a side table. Doesn't seem surprised to find me here. Thought you might like a cup of tea. Walks over to Arthur and plants a quick kiss on his lips. Right, I'll leave you to talk. Thank you, David. David leaves the room. As you see, for my partner, your presence here is perfectly normal. Arthur pauses for a moment, thinking. Now, I suppose that after all the efforts you must have gone through to find me, you no doubt have a lot of questions. Far away. Hey, ask what he means by realignment. You said that that's the first time you witnessed a realignment. What does that mean? How can I explain this simply? Let's say it's one of the possible effects of the chorus. Chorus? Yeah, the chorus. Yes, the choir of the gods, if you prefer. That's what we call the vibration on the record during the joining time. What do you call it then? A shrug. I don't know, I just say the record. Yeah, we haven't really had much time to think about it. We just kind of jumped into it and kind of, attempted to find out about all this, what's going on. Arthur smiles. Yes, that probably makes more sense. Each time that someone listens to the record, reality changes to adapt to the modifications that person has made to their past. Memory, recollections, some of what we are, as it were, remains intact. And there is a principle of economy, if you wish, which makes their changes as limited as possible. It's extremely difficult, indeed very probably impossible, to instill a global change. Generally speaking, someone's listening does not affect others. But it does sometimes happen that one is the eyewitness of a change in reality. So like a glitch in the Matrix type of thing? Objects or people who appear or disappear before your eyes, or, more rarely, the geographical movement of the witness themselves. I'll call that a realignment. That's exactly what just happened. You went back to your past to find out where I lived, didn't you? I nod. The record sent you to the moment in your past where you could obtain that information. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Which is why you are here. You know, your intent is the principal factor which determines the moment of your life which the record will make you relive. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That's the reason I saw you appear in my office a few moments ago. But how do you explain that you were aware of my sudden appearance, and your partner reacted as though nothing odd had happened? I don't really have an explanation. Or at least I'm not prepared to suggest something I'm not completely sure about. Nobody truly knows how it works. Generally speaking, the person who heard the chorus is the only person who's aware that reality has changed. Thinking back to Marie and Robin explains why they had no memory of Sean. As I simply had the good luck to be in the same room as you at the moment of realignment. As for David, he simply wasn't present for that quite singular occasion. Him, you probably arrived at Poolskin earlier, entering by the front door. Then we shut ourselves away in my office to talk. Let's ask about the record. Tell me how it works. Seem to know how the record works. Can you tell me more? No is a big word. But yes, if you consider that I'm one of a handful of people in the world who have heard the chorus, I suppose that gives me some authority on the question. What do you want to know? Can you undo the effects of the record? I'm assuming not. Is it possible to undo the effects of the record? No, that's impossible. I'm sorry. Once you've heard the chorus, you can't go back. Even if by some miracle you manage to come back to a reality very close to original reality, it won't be the same. Remember what you did listening to the record, and living inside other versions of yourself. Unless... Pullman leans back in his chair, and seems to be lost in thought for a while. Theoretically, if someone else went back to the past and stopped you from listening to the record... He breaks off. No, that wouldn't work. You would no longer be conscious of the existence of the chorus. As you heard in the original reality, you would inevitably be different from who you would be if your past had not been modified. This escapes me. It's all very complicated. So even with the record available to me, I could never completely return to my original reality. No, I'm sorry. But you said even with the record available. Do you realize that you don't have the record available to you anymore, don't you? Suddenly realized that I haven't checked if I stored the record with me. Grab a bag which rests on my feet and frantically rifle through it. Try not to panic. Clearly the record is not there. Uh-oh. Alice, I understand your reaction, but do try to stay calm. Where were you before you materialized here? In a hotel room in Glasgow. The record stayed there then? Pullman nods. Yes, I'm afraid so. Can I use your telephone? Tell myself that the chances of me finding it are slim, but I have to try. Arthur points to the office door. In the entrance hall. Turn right when you go out of the office, then left at the end of the corridor. I'll wait here. Thanks. I had no trouble finding the entrance hall. Telephone is a small desk across from the front door. About to pick it up when I notice my reflection in a large mirror which hangs on the wall above the desk. It takes me several moments to realize that the image I see reflected is my own. Yeah, I look very different. As I suspected, I now have short hair. Curls are skillfully arranged in a style that wouldn't look out of place in the golden age of Hollywood cinema. Wearing far more makeup than usual, lips are dark red. And his gingham dress makes me look very classy, a bit retro, maybe a little haughty. I like it. Old Alice would never have dared to cut her hair like this, but the image the mirror reflects at me is surprisingly attractive, almost self-evident. I'll probably need a little time to adapt to my new appearance, but something tells me I could get used to it pretty quickly. Take myself away from my reflection and pick up the phone before I realize that I don't know Alan's number by heart. Yeah, crap. I reach for my bag, find my cell phone and see what is connected. See that it's connected to a British operator. Like a boss tells me, it's not going to be much help, seeing as there's no signal here. Look through the directory and quickly find an entry for Alan with a cell phone number. It would seem that I know Alan in this reality, too. Yes, okay, thank fucking Christ. Considering that he's never listened to the record, the chances that he's in Glasgow are extremely thin, but I'll have to try. Picks up after a few rings. Hi. Hello, Alan. It's Alice. Oh, hello, Alice. I didn't recognize the number. There's no signal where I am. Calling from a landline. Is everything okay? Yes, tell me. Are you by any chance in Glasgow? No, I'm in London. But aren't you supposed to be in Glasgow? It's hard to get to the point before I lose control of the conversation. Got no idea what Alan knows or doesn't know in this reality. Yes, tell me, would you by any chance have the number of the hotel where I was staying? I forgot something there. I don't have the number. Hang on, I think you called me out from your room a few days ago. I'll check the call logs. Here beeps and some swearing through the handset as Alan battles with his phone to get the information. Here it is. Have you got something to write with? Taking my pen and a scrap of paper out of my bag. and reads the number out to me. Tell him I don't have the time to chat, that I have to run. He asks me to call him when I have more time. Briskly hang up the phone, then I pick it up again and dial the number of the hotel. As I wait, listening to the dial tone, realized I scribbled a number down at the bottom of the bill for my stay in the Station Hotel, Glasgow. Conversation with Alan wasn't necessary after all, but I admit it was reassuring to hear his voice, and especially to know we're not strangers to each other in this new reality. I explain my situation to the receptionist. He tells me that no, I've forgotten nothing in my room, which I checked out of the day before last. I insist. He tells me that actually a woman had come to the hotel room in the afternoon, that she had asked to get back a vinyl record which had been forgotten in room number 23. Ah, frick. The room hadn't been let for at least 2 weeks, but at the woman's urging, she finally agreed to check. She had been astonished when, in fact, there had been a vinyl record, a low trouble record player, room 23. She confessed that yes, of course, she'd let the woman take the record, that she's sorry, but that I had been in room 17. That she couldn't have guessed that the record belonged to me. Actually, on that subject, she'd like to know how I managed to get into room 23. Tell her that's not important. However, if she could tell me the name of the person who reclaimed the record, that would be great. Tells me that she hadn't thought to ask her name. Of course she didn't. But that it was a woman, middle-aged, with white hair and wearing a dark pantsuit. Yep. We know her all too well, and now she's got the frickin' record in her hand. This is not gonna go well for us. I think her hang up and hiss Eva between my teeth before the handset is even resting back on its support. Then return to the office. Paul has changed the music in my absence, smoking a cigarette by the window while he waits for me. Oh, excuse me. I started it out in the ashtray left on the exterior windowsill. Davis forbade me from smoking inside. We compromised on this. I love to quit, but I'm afraid it's rather late for this old dog to start learning new tricks. Sits back down behind his desk. So? I'm afraid someone's already got the record. Let me guess. Woman in her 40s, enters the name of Eva Lorenz, am I right? Do you know her? I thought let out a sigh. Oh yes, known her since she was a child. I haven't seen her for more than 10 years. Don't know why I'd want to ask how long you've known her for, because he literally just said that. How did you lose touch? I left let's call it a commune where she was born, when she was still a young woman. I haven't seen her since the beginning of the 90s. Or even longer, depending on which reality we're talking about. I was, let's see, quite close to her father, Ernest Lorenz. Woman breaks off and stares out the window, his gaze far away for a minute. Anyway, I would have preferred that she hadn't gotten her hands on the record. To be perfectly honest, I suspected that I'd hear from her again, sooner or later. Someone knocks on the door. Yes. But dinner will be ready soon. I assumed you'd be staying at the Manor tonight, Alice. Made up a guest room for you. You did quite right, David. Alice and I still have a lot to discuss. Pick this up after dinner. Yeah, thank you for your hospitality. You're very welcome. We love having people to stay at the Manor. It's a big house. It's made for entertaining. Followed my host into the dining room. David has cooked a simple, delicious meal. He serves me a glass of red wine while he scrutinizes me with a piercing, curious gaze. Tell me, Alice, what do you do? Imagine it's something to do with music, considering how much time you spent with art. So I'll take a sip of wine, and myself some thinking time. I admit to myself that I have no idea. Well, things for sure, I'm certainly not a banker, not in this reality. On one hand, I could answer vaguely that I work in music, which isn't exactly a proven fact, but does seem in line with this new reality. On the other hand, I could answer honestly and tell them that I work in a bank, in spite of all the clues which suggest that is now extremely improbable. Oh, which one do we go for? Let's just say we work in the music industry. Yes, I do actually work in the music industry. Here's some information about a rare record that only Arthur could give me. David smiles. That also gives us an excuse as to why we're here as well. That doesn't surprise me. That's a real fount for knowledge. Now that he's retired, I keep pushing him to write something on the subject. What do you think, Alice? Arthur cuts us off. Davy, surely you're not going to interrogate our guest, are you? No, sorry, I didn't mean to pry. I hope I haven't made you feel awkward. Try to point the discussion in a less prickly direction. How did you get to know Arthur? My dad was Latino, my mum American, and I grew up in the Queens. I met Art in a club in the East Village. He was a local correspondent for the BBC. It took him a few years to persuade me to move to London with him, but I'm happy to say I don't regret it a bit. Arthur, who's risen to clear away our plates, strokes his partner's shoulder with affection. Oh, these two are so cute together. Cheese or straight to dessert? Cheese. And also dessert. Why not both? Both is good. David gives me a winning smile. Whichever you prefer, Alice. But if we put the cheese on the table, it'll give me an excuse to eat it. I had to go with cheese. I'd never say no to a cheese board, thanks. Arthur disappears in the kitchen with our plates. Art never talks about his youth. Really think that's a shame. He had a chance to see the biggest bands of the 70s. Got some incredible live recordings. Arthur returns with the cheese board and clean plates. Do you make it listen to your recording of Miles at the Schaefer Music Festival? I managed to capture the last concert of Miles Davis' electric period. It's truly incredible. Alice isn't here for that, David. Don't listen to this party pooper. Doesn't like talking about his youth. It's mostly because that period's pretty fuzzy to me. Yes, the world must have been horribly dry before you met me, Art. I laugh. Makes me wonder if he maybe used the record as well. Well, he maybe doesn't want to talk about the past. Both very charming and cultured. Having a very pleasant evening. Talk about music, about everything and nothing. Arthur tells me about his radio show in the BBC, his life in London in the 90s. At the time we got to coffee, it was already quite late. David excuses himself and goes to bed, but not without first showing me the way to my room. Then Arthur and I go into the living room to continue our conversation. A cozy room that's an old stone fireplace, with 2 leather armchairs and a couch placed in front of it. Arthur puts a log under her while I take a seat in one of the armchairs. Can I get you a nightcap? Cognac? Whiskey? I'd love one. Whiskey's perfect, thanks. Arthur pours us out a glass of Tusker. I know we're closer to Speyside here at Boleskine, but what can you do? I like the island whiskies. Leans back at ease in the armchair. I take a deep breath. There's something bothering me. Both of these are good questions. Yeah, let's ask why he wants to help me. I mean, we don't know each other. Watch me pop up in your office and you're so kind and supportive. Why? Saka turned to take a deep breath. I feel rather responsible for what's happened to you. I should have destroyed it when I could have. But I was selfish. Instead, I chose to escape by throwing myself into the best life I could imagine. Hope that you'll finish what I started if you get the chance. Let me start by telling you my story, please. Should help shed light on a few shadowy areas for you. Very well. I'm listening. Woman takes a gulp of whiskey and puts his glass down on the coffee table. The year I turned 22, joined a hippie commune in Germany, south of Bavaria, a few miles from Munich. I was young and I dreamed of freedom. I had a terribly middle-class family, and I thought that I'd better get a move on and have a few adventures before my ingrained middle-class sensibilities could take root. So, I took a ferry for the continent, and I wandered around France and Italy for a few months before taking up residence in that commune in the Bavarian countryside. It was there that I met Ernest Lorenz. For a while, he was my mentor, maybe even my friend. He was an extremely cultured man with incredible charisma. He was over 30, one of the oldest of us, which gave him a sort of natural authority. The commune aimed to be staunchly democratic, but in reality, it was often he who guided the direction, who decided when a direct decision needed taken for the governing of the community. Those first few years were fantastic. We lived a carefree existence, cultivated land, we did a bit of crafting, wicker-work, pottery, to exchange for all that we could produce ourselves. There was music every night. We took acid frequently. That didn't last. Arthur's face is bleak. No, you're right, and I was naive to have thought it could. He was born the year before I arrived. Another young woman in the commune died in childbirth. Ernest adopted her as if he were her father, which was certainly a possibility, but was absolutely not a certainty. It was the era of free love. The concept of monogamy was pretty hazy for the members of the community. But the case, he raised her as his daughter. Eva was an odd child. She was clever, precise, or precocious. She often seemed more adult than a child. Found out years later that Ernest had made her listen to records several times during her childhood. Man, that is fucked. Yeah, no wonder Eva is the way that she is. That she could be liberated as soon as possible from the yoke of reality. God. Got no idea what the efforts of the chorus could be on such an immature psyche, but I imagine that must have been a determining factor in the construction of her identity. Yeah, it must have done numbers on her mental state. How did the record fit in all this? Oh, it was always there, right from the commune's beginning. Belonged to Ernest, honestly, originally. He never wanted to reveal where it came from. I think his father had discovered it in some way or another, and had engraved an acetate. Ernest was from a very wealthy family. Created the commune after he inherited the land which belonged to his family. I didn't learn that until later either. Things started to change in the second half of the 70s. Little by little, Ernest's position became more radical. It was insidious. The commune began to change gradually into a quasi-religious splinter group. Of course it did. The enchanted interlude of the hippie era was ending, and not just in our community. There had always been arrivals and departures in the commune. Then there came a time when, without us noticing, the tide changed. Departures became more frequent than the arrivals. Yeah, what happened after that? I told you, things started to change. I didn't want to face the truth. It broke my heart to watch our ideal life slipping away, little by little. And to tell you the truth, I was terrified at the idea of having to reintegrate into society. It was during those years that Ernest revealed the existence of the record to me for the first time. I think only the closest and most devoted members knew about it, even at the start of the commune. I heard the chorus for the first time in 1981. It was an incredible experience, as it was for all the initiates. There were the times in the first years of commune, moments of simple happiness in bygone days. For a long, very long time, I had no idea that chorus allowed you to change the past. Ernest needed me to manage the day-to-day organisation of the commune, and that suited me to a T. In 1985, there were only a handful of yearly residents left. Those were Ernest, his daughter Eva, 3 other followers, and myself. Moved into the Great Lorenz family mansion. I became the de facto personnel secretary of Ernest Lorenz. It also made me just realize, with his little radio show with all the unique music and stuff that he was able to get his hands on, I wonder if that happened to be because of the record by chance. That's fascinating, but what's the point of all that? Which one do I do? Because both of these are kind of... Okay, not really interested in where the money came from, so what's the point in all this? Arthur shrugs. What's the point of life? There's a hesitation before he clarifies what he means, and that word, smile plain on his lips. I mean is, I never knew if Ernest truly had a long-term plan. I think he has simply found a way of life that suited him, and he did what he had to make it last. I mean, it must seem strange to you, but to be perfectly honest, it was quite a pleasant life. It took some time for me to mourn the loss of those hippie ideals, but once I got into the new routine, well, I don't really regret those years. In that case, what made you leave? A combination of various factors. Sometimes yeah, I'm not even going to even attempt to pronounce that word. The RFA's intelligence service has been watching us. Like the sort of Democells, the menace of their strike on our network hung over us. Ernest had sunk into a kind of permanent paranoia, which was only worsening with time. As with most people like that who end up turning into religious nuts of some sort. With hindsight, I'm sure it was a warning sign of his illness. With the fall of the Soviet Union, we took advantage of the chaos generated by the reunification to migrate to the other side of the Iron Curtain to Prague. I think it was Eva who whispered that idea into her father's ear. After she realized that with all the upheaval, she she'd have the opportunity to carve herself out a more important, decisive role in the organization. Which is exactly what happened. So the organization relocated again and presented itself as a kind of occult elite club, vaguely Masonic, at least, from the exterior. The Aeon Kairos. It reminds me of something. I think for a few moments before realizing that must certainly be the Iron Sky Rose Eddie Black spoke of. Aeon Kairos, what does that mean? As you may have guessed, the name wasn't chosen by chance. Concepts are rather complicated to explain, but do you want the long version or the short? Give us the long version, because why not? Sit back in my armchair. Try the long version if you don't mind. Human size. As I told you, I was very abreast of the what you might call mystic part of our organization. Even if I was pretty much in charge of the operational aspects of our activities, of course, I asked Ernest about it. What did he tell you? Aeon, Kairos, and Kronos are the three terms which correspond to different aspects of temporality for the ancient Greeks. The notion of Kronos is the easiest to understand. What we, modern man, simply call time. One could at a push translate Aeon as the notion of eternity. As for Kairos, that's more difficult to explain. It's the deciding moment. Infinitesimal moment when everything changes. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, I'm somewhat following along. Yes, it's perfectly clear. Think of my own experience with the record, living those moments of change and the resulting ripples of transformation. This choice to associate eternity and the deciding moment, as you say, the Aeon and the Kairos. It's almost poetic. But all that doesn't tell me how you managed to escape. Sorry, you're right. I'm afraid I got a bit off track there. Try to stick to the basics, but I could talk to you all night without getting through everything that happened during those 20 years of my life. Anyway, it was the move to Prague, which marked the beginning of the end for me. Ernest was suffering from early onset and aggressive strain of Alzheimer's disease, undiagnosed of course. While we stayed in Bavaria in the house that he'd always known, I think he managed to counteract his progressive memory loss. In a completely new environment, however, his condition worsened rapidly. Yeah, that's the thing about diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, just sucks all around. And there's not really much you can do about it. It became more and more important, finally superseding her father as the head of the organization. Little by little she moved me to the sidelines. When Ernest died in 91, I really began to question my own commitment to the Lodge. I suppose you could call it a midlife crisis, but the fact is I wanted to change my life. Also, while Ernest and I simply defended our way of life, Eva had other ambitions. She was the most diligent student of the chorus, to which she had access all the time, unlike the other initiatives, who only had the chance to listen to the record during special ceremonies, which were organized twice a year. Yeah, what were Eva's plans originally? Yeah. Must certainly have had a vision when she took charge of your organization, right? Oh, I wasn't completely in confidence, even during Ernest's time. But it became worse when Eva took the reins of the lodge. What I'm sure is that yes, she had plans and ambitions, and that the record was necessary for her to realize them. However, I don't believe that even the most initiated knew the full scope of the plan she was fomenting. Familiar with the saying, divide and conquer? Exactly how Ernest and Eva functioned. But without Ernest's reason and wisdom to curb her, I was afraid that Eva would drive us to lose everything. It had already been a long time since I felt I belonged in the organization, but after Ernest's death, there was nothing more to keep me there. So I used the ceremonial chorus in the spring of 1991 to change my past. And without knowing it, I managed to break the rules and to move the record out of Pegu. But you told me that the record couldn't be moved geographically while being listened to. There's a loophole to that rule. Let me explain. Having spent most of my adult life in the commune, then in Lauren's home, chorus systematically sent me back, give or take a few years, to the same place. I have very little maneuvering room to change anything in my past. This time was no different. What was different, however, was that I was desperate. Realized that I could escape by changing the moment the chorus had sent me to, so I listened to the record again in the past. Oh, interesting. This time the record took me to London before my departure for the commune, which gave me the opportunity to decide not to go. And when you came back to the present, you were ready to present on the BBC? Exactly. Not only did I find myself sitting on a treasure trove of live recordings of all the great bands of the 70s, but also I was in a relationship with the charming, funny, cultured man who you met earlier. On one hand, this time, the change the chorus had wrought on my life was radical, and my new life was almost nothing in common with my original reality. But on the other hand, I was free. I never regretted my decision. What happened after? I suppose that Eva must have tried to find you. Oh yes. It was hardly difficult to find Arthur Pullman ready to present on the great British airwaves. Came to see me in London, maybe 1 month after my departure. That time I had no idea that the record had disappeared. She realized that I didn't have it, she left me alone. She had nothing more to gain. Understand, she had nothing to gain from messing up your life. Exactly. And, well, known her since she was born. Tell myself that somewhere deep down, maybe she still has a tiny little bit of affection for me. Either way, despite all our failings and shortcomings, the Lodge remains the successor of the hippie ideal. And there are the values that Eva was raised with. Fairly certain that she would always choose the non-violent option if she could. Anyway, there it is. You know what came after. There's something I don't understand. What happened to the record? I think it materialized in the place where I listened to it again in the past, while I heard the chorus. So, in the location of the commune in Bavaria. That's it. Ernest had wanted to sell the property when we moved to Prague. Money for sale allowed them to finance a large residence in the Mala Strana district near Charles Bridge. Then whoever bought the Lorenz family house, they found the record? Probably, but it's more complicated than that. Property was transformed into a hotel after the sale. Kind of place you rent out for weddings, you know. I nod. You're in a haystack situation then. Indeed. Besides, I never heard any more about the record, except those legends talked by the record collectors, store owners, and other musicians, which I have resisted adding to. Well, at least not until you materialized in my office earlier. I'm sorry. Sorry for making you relive all that painful past. Arthur just says that there's no problem with a wave of his hand. Oh, I guess this business would resurface sooner or later. As I told you, I regret not destroying the record when I had the chance. As I could have ended all this. Finishes his drink with one swallow and checks his watch. Well, I hope you'll excuse me, but it's late. We'll finish this conversation tomorrow if you don't mind. Wait, for what? Wait, you haven't told me how to find the record again. Oh, yeah, there is that audio. Arthur lets out a sigh. The record is probably in Preku. Give you the details tomorrow, don't worry. Come on, I'll walk you to your room. Okay, thanks, dude. Boleskine guest room is a big room decorated in a cozy, rustic style with an adjoining bathroom. Travel bag rests on an upholstered seat at the foot of the bed. Host certainly knows how to receive their guests. Go quickly through my bag, realizing that it probably doesn't contain the same things as before I listened to the record. Surprisingly, my new wardrobe is all femininity and sensuality, with a selection of retro dresses and silk blouses to choose from. Seeing that this new version of myself doesn't like to wear pants much. I pull out my dressing case and a nightgown, then I go to the bathroom. Take a quick shower, remove my makeup, and slip between the sheets, hoping that sleep isn't too far away. Enter the kitchen shyly. David is reading the newspaper as Arthur prepares scrambled eggs. Radio probably tuned to the BBC, delivers the morning news report. See who notices my presence on the doorstep. Good morning, Alice. Did you sleep well? Obviously, with all my adventures of the previous day, my night had been a little disturbed. Does Arthur really need to know that fact? Nah, he doesn't. I slept well. Enough. But an excellent night, thank you. Arthur smiles. I'm delighted to hear. I have quite a few stories about the haunting of Boleskine. I am so glad you didn't tell me this before, otherwise I would have been a lot more disturbed. Since I've lived here, I've always slept very well too. If you want my opinion, I believe that ghosts, if they exist, attach themselves to people, not places. Paul is thoughtful for a moment, then abruptly changes the subject. Do you like English breakfast? Do take a seat, please. I pay and sit down. Ed puts down his paper and picks up the coffee pot. Coffee? Hold the mug in front of me. Yes, please. I only had time to make a mouthful of the delicious, rejuvenating nectar when Arthur places a plate of scrambled eggs, sausages, and baked beans before me, to which he adds 2 slices of toast straight from the toaster. We eat in silence. Man, I could go with a good English breakfast right now. It sounds so good. Probably should have eaten before I recorded this. David sips his coffee. Arthur seems engrossed by the radio. Finish my plate quickly, pour myself another cup of coffee, and use the quiet to try and assemble my thoughts into better order. First starting information is, it would seem that Eulis never reached Boleskine. If I didn't have the chance to ask him about it directly, I think that Arthur would have mentioned the visit of another person with questions about the record. Imagine that what happened was that after travelling to Glasgow, Eulis probably backtracked to Paris, where he decided to send me the record. I can only think of 2 reasons why he would have decided to give up his journey to Boleskine. Either he judged that his visit would be too dangerous. Suppose that he was also being closely followed by Eva and the members of the Lodge Aeon Kairos. Realizing that the noose was tightening, perhaps he preferred to muddle the trails, changing his brow and getting rid of the record as fast as possible. Other option is that, for him too, trail to Arthur stopped in Glasgow. After all, I was only able to discover the address of Pullman's new home by returning to the past. It's possible that he hadn't remembered the sale of Boleskine taken place, and that person he was thinking was the one who had brought the property. So he would have returned to Paris to seek out a new lead. The young heiress must have caught up with him there, sent the record to me rather than let Eva get her hands on it. It's making me even more mad at the idea that it's my fault. Eva was finally able to achieve her purpose. As for me, I find myself stuck in this new present, this new life that I know nothing about. At least Alan still knows me, which is reassuring. What about Patty or Enzo, or the other people I encountered during my journey? If one thing's for sure, it's that there's no way this new Alice leads a tidy little life in our home city. It all seems so far away, although only a few days have passed. Arthur's voice directs me from my reflections. I'm going to pick up the post in the letterbox. If you'd like to come with me, Alice, it'd be company for me, and it would give us the chance to finish our conversation. Dave was going to Inverness to do some shopping this morning. We'll drop you off at the station. Hosts are certainly perfect. Not knowing how to express my gratitude, I content myself with saying, thank you. Pick up my plate and mug. David gestures me to leave them in the sink. And after running to my room to grab a coat, join Arthur in the entrance hall. We go out. Outside, the weather is cold and dreary. Green Highlands landscape is enveloped in an early morning mist which hasn't been lifted. Arthur hands me a piece of paper. This is the address of the lodge in Pegu. Now that Eva has the record, I think I can confirm that she'll take it back there. I'd like to do more to help you, but it's been 15 years since I severed my ties with that part of my life. Hey, you've helped me out enormously. Don't help me out enormously. Don't know how I can ever thank you for your hospitality, for all the information you've given me about the record. Oh, there's no need to thank me. As I told you, I do feel rather responsible for what's happened to you. The woman points to the lane which winds away from the house. The postbox is at the end of the lane near the road. We start walking. So, do you know what you're going to do? What am I going to do? Yes, when you leave Boleskine. I don't suppose it will be too difficult to find a flight from London to Pegu. It's true that I haven't really considered the question. On one hand, Arthur has encouraged me quite insistently to try to get the record back. On the other hand, why should I really do it? I don't have much information about this new reality, except for the few clues I've been able to glean from my belongings. I could go home, back to that city, take some time before making any decisions. Could also stop in London, drop in on Alan. Seems that I know him in this new reality, but what's our relationship? But then there's Ulysses. If he never came to Boleskine, where could he be? Think back to our encounter just yesterday for me, 3 years ago for him. What do you mean by we don't need to break up anymore? Would it be much simpler if I just found him? No matter what, I'm not going to change straight ahead to Pegu. No, before I learn a little about my new life. Okay, which one do I go back to though? I mean, as nice as it would be to go back home, I don't think there's really much left back there for us, so I say we stop in London, see how our other friend is doing. Gonna start with a trip to London. Someone I'd like to see. I'd like to know what our relationship is in this new reality. Arthur gives me an unkind smile. I understand. I hope you'll find the answers to your questions. But don't lose sight of the fact that, how should I put it, you're still you deep down. Don't believe that the choices we make change us in our deepest essence, if you see what I mean. Yeah, you're probably right. Don't believe changing the past is the solution to my problems. prefer to look forward. In any case, thanks again for this address in Pegu, and for everything else. Arthur just smiles at me this time, reaches in the mailbox, opens it, sees that it's empty, and we head back to the house. David is waiting for us at the door. It would be a good idea if we don't hang about too long. I'd like to be back for lunch. And anyway, the earlier we get going, the less difficulty you'll have finding a train, Alice. I nod. Need a minute to get my things first, and I'm ready to go. A few minutes later, I climb into David's old 4x4. Then we leave Bullskin, heading for London via Inverness.